Are you struggling as a manager, as a leader, as a business owner to get your cross cultural team to really click? You've got fabulous people from all over the world, but instead of a thriving team, you've potentially got friction, you've got miscommunication and misunderstandings, and worst of all, you've probably got missed opportunities. Well, you are not alone. It's not as though you can just put a bunch of people together in a team and hope that everything is going to work out. A cross cultural team can be an incredible opportunity for you. There is huge untapped potential, but it can also be a hotbed for conflict and confusion. Here's the reality. Cross-cultural teams, we know, are the backbone of many of today's most successful businesses, but managing these teams isn't easy. You've got different languages, different customs, and most importantly, different communication styles. And that's where things can break down. Have you ever been in a meeting where you thought you were being crystal clear, only to find out later that your message was completely and utterly misunderstood? Or how about when one team member is ready to speak their mind, but another sees that as being aggressive or even confrontational? These little clashes are like time bombs in cross-cultural teams. They go off when you least expect it. Did you know that culturally diverse teams can be up to 35% more innovative, but they also face 20% more conflict than homogeneous teams? Why is that? Because when diversity is managed poorly, it leads to frustration, disengagement, and inefficiency. It's like trying to drive a Ferrari with the brakes on, and you're not going to get anywhere fast. So let's look at an example of how this actually works in real life. With a client, a cross-cultural team spread across 4 countries, the UK, Japan, Brazil, and India. On paper, an absolute powerhouse. Talent, creativity, and amazing expertise. But in reality, they were stuck in constant friction. So here's what happened in real time. And I appreciate that some of you will say, I'm making a big generalization. And others I know will absolutely resonate with what it is I'm saying. So the UK team valued direct communication. If something wasn't working, they said so. The Japanese team, if you came out with a problem, that might be seen as being disrespectful. They appreciated a little more diplomacy, a little more discretion. The Brazilian team, absolutely on it. Let's brainstorm ideas right now and get to the bottom of the problem. Thank you, Mina. And the Indian team, well, again, whilst they didn't look away from the problem, they wanted a structured approach. Let's sit down, let's look at what's happening, and let's work out the steps that have to be taken here. What are the results of that type of team, that cross-cultural team, without the cultural intelligence, without the emotional intelligence? Well, it's going to be miscommunication. It's going to be frustration. There are potentially going to be missed deadlines because everybody's working to a slightly different cultural agenda. But most of all, from a business perspective or from an organizational perspective, you have not only missed opportunities, but you have not allowed the potential of your cross-cultural team to actually work to its greatest potential. How do these struggles, how does this friction even arise? Where does it even come from? You've got these fabulous people from potentially around the world who have incredible technical expertise, who are absolute experts in what it is that they contribute, but something just isn't happening. Well, in essence, it comes down to a couple of other things in addition to technical stuff. There has to be emotional intelligence and there has to be cultural intelligence. And when you are managing your team, you're going to have to learn to understand how others think, how they feel, and how they respond to the various types of communication. Research from experts such as Dr. Joe Dispenza shows that when we don't feel understood, and I'm sure that you will understand this, when we don't feel understood or appreciated, our stress response kicks in, our brain goes into survival mode, and suddenly we're no longer collaborating, we're protecting ourselves, we go on the defensive. This is why emotional intelligence isn't just a nice to have. It's non-negotiable when it comes to leading cross-cultural teams. And when leaders can recognize these cultural differences and respond with emotional intelligence, suddenly the friction disappears and the team starts to flow. Now, I know that you're probably asking yourself, how? How do I do this? How do I turn my cross-cultural team from being friction-filled to high-performing? It begins with one word, very simple. It's called cohesion. Because imagine you have a team where that communication does flow more easily, where conflicts aren't immediately huge problems, where you can potentially turn them into opportunities. And when every person on your team, regardless of where they are from, feels heard and feels valued. Well, I know that's what's possible when you master the cross-cultural cohesion code. And so now I would love to invite you to book a time for us to speak so that I can take you through this cohesion system where we'll talk about self-awareness, ownership, empathy, stress management. We'll dig into how you can build trust across the cultures in your team, how you can manage those boundaries, and how you can optimize your team's performance. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, stay fabulous, because you are.